Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Planet X News. This is Scott from the Nibiru channel. I'm here this evening with Dr. Claudia Albers, our physicist. We're going to be talking about, naturally, Planet X and some things that are currently going on within this so-called Nibiru community. I want to touch base with all of you briefly this evening, simply because there is a lot of, once again, disinformation that is popping up all over the internet and all over YouTube. And a lot of this information is just, well, I'll just come out and say it, just complete BS. I've been getting a lot of emails again, over and over and over again about other YouTube channels and, other periodicals and things that people are seeing on the internet about planet Nibiru crashing into the Earth. Just today, I must have viewed, probably over a dozen videos of some new channels that are popping up out of nowhere. And, the headings are Update, Nibiru set to crash into Earth, November 1st, November 4th, December 3rd, all these crazy dates. And, ladies and gentlemen, if you've been following my channel for some time now, you know by now that nothing like this is ever going to happen. We're not going to have any type of planetary collision. That's just not going to happen. But these videos keep popping up. And, I ask that you don't share those videos with me, loading up my email with, well, basically just a bunch of nonsense. It's just not going to happen. A lot of these channels that are popping up, I guess they're either trying to cash in on the frenzy with Nibiru or Planet X. This planetary collision that they talk about, it's just not going to happen. So, a lot of you that are new to the information, just plant that seed in your mind. This is never going to happen. Last month and the month before, we've been coming up with pretty solid information in our research and our investigation that these objects, they are stationary in an orbit with the sun. And I've been answering as many emails and as many messages as I possibly can. And it's just becoming very, very repetitive, over and over and over and over and over again, answering the same questions. Folks, if you go back through my videos, and if you're new to this information, go back through the videos, starting today, and just go back and start watching the information, especially the live streams. And you'll see where we've told everyone, excuse me, numerous times, this type of planetary collision is just not going to happen. Dr. Albers, would you like to explain to everybody why a planetary collision would not be something that we need to be worried about when dealing with Planet X?
Yes, certainly, Scott. Thank you. Well, first of all, these objects, I've written a lot about the electrical universe. So what happens is when two objects, be they planets or even these objects that are stars, approach each other, they can only get as close. It's the same way why when we push against something solid, we cannot push our hands right into that object. And the reason why is because the electrons on the surface of our finger and that object repel each other. So we cannot push our hand one into the other. So it's the same way that these objects, planetary objects, repel each other when they get too close. And this is the reason why we do not have collisions. Also, these objects are attracted to the sun. They go right into the sun's corona. They make connections with the sun. They draw plasma from the sun. And what I've actually discovered is that they seem to be becoming a part of the sun. In other words, they start absorbing energy and plasma from the sun. And so the sun shares some of its energy with these objects. And what I've discovered is some of these objects actually hold stationary positions with respect to the sun in the sun's corona. So then that region in the corona initially is darker than normal, and then eventually it starts emitting light. It's almost as if the sun grows in size because these objects become a part of what is now the nucleus of the solar system. So they are, however, different from the sun, and they bring in their own ionizing material. So it changes the kind of light that is emitted, and it changes several other things. They seem to emit gamma radiation because of the fission reactions that happen between the sun and these objects. So all kinds of things happen that are different, but they are attracted to the sun. So they go right into the corona, and that's where they stay. They may move a little bit outside of the corona, but not far. They don't move where the planets are. So this is basically what's happening. And I have written several articles now, and I've reached the conclusion that what's happening is the sun seems to be absorbing these objects, and we are having at the nucleus of the solar system basically additional stars. Don't forget, these objects are stars. Only stars that are very dense would be able to withstand the temperature in the corona. So the reason why we see them as objects, as solid objects, is because they are cores of stars. Some of these stars must have been much larger than the sun as main sequence stars, because some of these cores are as large as the sun itself. And we've been showing images of these stellar cores. They're often visible within CMEs. They actually provoke the sun into having CMEs. There's this exchange of plasma as well between them and the sun. So they're absorbing plasma. And what I've discovered recently, which has surprised me, is that they can hold stationary positions within the outer corona of the sun. And as that happens, what happens is we have now a collection of stars in the nucleus of the solar system. And the planets now are no longer just attached to the sun. They are attached to the nucleus of the solar system, so to this group of stars as a whole. So then it becomes possible to see the sun jolting and moving and shaking. And I've written some articles about that where that was visible. And the reason why is because we do not just have the sun at the center of the solar system. We have several other objects. These objects have been coming in for quite a while. I think they may have been discovered late 1960s. And I've been saying that possibly they started coming into the solar system about 100 years ago. But now you've just put up this information, Scott, about the black sun that happened on October 13th, 1917 at Fatima, which is a little town in Portugal. And apparently there was a strange eclipse. There was like a dark sun that appeared in front of the actual sun. And this is what you would expect if a stellar core goes in front of the sun. I've shown some images of this actually happening in a 2001 image in some of my articles with respect to the detector. one of the satellites that was observing the sun at the time. I think it was one of the Japanese satellites. So it's possible then that these objects actually started arriving at the sun about then. In other words, 100 years ago, which means that they started coming into the solar system before then. But we have to realize they are not natural to the solar system. If they had been natural to the solar system, and the kind of effect they have on the sun, which is basically to eventually drain it completely because there are so many, and they all absorb energy from the sun, that eventually the sun will not be able to have enough energy to share with all of these objects. So if these objects had been natural to the solar system, the sun would have died a very long time ago. So they are not natural, but these objects may have started coming in 100 years ago. I think what happened at Fatima was possibly the first sign that they were here. Of course, now we don't see this because we have the sun simulators that stop us from seeing these eclipses, these objects eclipsing the sun.
Yeah, this event in Fatima, this was a very, very strange event.
Yes.
I'm getting a little bit of echo back from your microphone, Doc. You have anything else playing on your computer there?
No, nothing else.
It seems to have stopped. Who knows? Might be the NSA listening to us. But anyways, getting back to this information back in Fatima. Ladies and gentlemen, I was sent this information by one of our subscribers. It told me to look into it because there were a few events that occurred, I think, earlier in the week. There was some video and some photographs coming out of, I believe it was Russia, and if I'm not mistaken, Vietnam, and a few other countries. There were videos that were put up of this black object being videotaped and photographed in front of the sun. And the information was coinciding with what happened in Fatima in the year 1917. So I started looking into the information. And there's a very, very high possibility, that these objects have been here for a long, long time. I mean, a very long time. If you start digging into what actually happened on that day, you're going to blow your own mind. It is estimated that more than 70,000 people gathered and watched this event. And there is one photograph of what these people were viewing, and we'll get to that in a minute. But my allergies are acting up a little bit during the fall season here. So, Doc, do you want to go ahead and read this information for everybody? I'm going to step away for just 1 second.
Okay. All right. So this was, as I said, in a little Portuguese town called Fatima. So in July, August, and September 1917, 3 Portuguese shepherd children claimed that a miracle was going to happen at midday on October 13th. And thousands of people gathered in the Cova, the inner fields near Fatima on that day, to witness the event. And estimates of the number of people vary between 10,000 and 100,000. So that's quite a lot of people. So much to the surprise of local skeptics and media, the crowds did indeed witness a strange event. And after a period of rain, the clouds apparently broke to reveal the sun spinning and moving towards the earth in a zigzag pattern. Witness reports include the following claims. The sun was surrounded by a halo of flame that changed color. The sun danced in a mad whirl about itself. The sun gave off an abnormal amount of heat. It must be heat, although it looks like heart. Wet clothes became suddenly dry. Multicolored flashes of light leapt from the sun. And the sun was pale, perhaps silver or light blue, and could be looked at directly without harm to the viewer. So the event was also witnessed by crowds and individuals at different locations. So I think the fact that the sun was pale and silver or a different color indicates that this was probably not the sun, but another star that came between the sun and the earth. There is no reason why the sun would suddenly become blue or silver. So it looks like an interaction between the sun and another star happened at the time. And if the sun itself was moving, well, we have recently seen that the sun starts to jolt when some of these objects approach it. So possibly this was one of the first objects that arrived at the sun and started interacting with it. And there were no simulators to stop us from seeing it. But the explanations given by the church are not definitive. Yeah, so that's the people looking at the sky. It's a good thing there were cameras already by then.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the invention of the camera, it was already out there by the year 1917. Now, there is some video that was sent to me showing the blinking and the flashing sun with this round black spherical object in front of it. There are several videos out there that have just recently been posted on YouTube. Now, I have the videos, but because of copyright infringement, I don't know, I don't know the people who sent me the videos and the photographs. So therefore, I'm not going to be able to show them to you, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just clue you in on one thing here real quick. I've been getting some emails lately and some inbox messages on the Planet X News Facebook page. Basically, either trying to agitate me or downing me because I'm not utilizing an individual's pictures or videos. Listen, folks, I've been in this for a long time. Just about everything has been done to me to disrupt my channel. I've had individuals send me video footage, photographs. I've used them in videos, and it's basically turned around to be a setup, and they go and file these copyright infringement notifications to YouTube, and it's all in order to get your channel taken down, terminated. So I'm not going to fall for that. So that is one of the big reasons why I don't show other people's information, such as the photographs and the videos. And this has been done to me, oh my God, probably more than a dozen times just over the course of this past year. So if you start doing your own research into this black sun and what occurred in Fatima in 1917. Now, we're actually moving very, very close to the actual date. I believe it was October 13th. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, Scott. I think we actually passed that date. We're now in November.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. That's right.
So we've actually passed 100 years now.
Yeah, the changing of the clocks is already getting to me. But during this period of time, these three little girls, they were very vocal about what appeared to them, what came to them. All of these people, there is an estimate of approximately 70,000 people. It's even estimated as high as 100,000 people gathered in these farmlands, these meadows, all gathered together. And as you can see, one photographer was snapping photographs. All of these people were standing there. You know, ladies and gentlemen, it's one thing to have one or two people or even a few people witness or view an event. But having more than 70,000 people standing there and looking up into the sky and seeing something and then documenting it back in this era of 1917, where there was basically almost no technology. And for them to document this, I felt that that was pretty credible. So I started looking into it. The doctor and I are going to look a little further into a lot of this information, because I think it has a lot of credibility, and I think it is going to point us into some directions where we may start to get some explanations. Listen, folks, I know everybody wants answers and they want to see pictures. But the fact of the matter is, folks, you know, I've mentioned this before, and I'm going to repeat it again. Okay, these objects are in some type of a set orbit as the sun is rotating on its own axis. These objects are rotating on their own axis. At the same time, they are in a very fast orbit around the sun. We've gone over this over and over again. You know, folks, look, I'm just going to be realistic. I'm not going to be fake about the way that I feel. But, you know, there's a lot of other YouTube channels out there that are basically showing you nothing but BS, nothing but nonsense. Okay? Personally, my personal opinion, you're not going to see these objects on a webcam in Alaska. I do not believe that you are going to see reflections of this object in an FAA webcam. These, like, you know, these little pink orbs that the word orb is now being used by one particular channel because, you know, they don't want to label these objects Planet X or Nibiru or whatever. Okay. There's a very high possibility, folks, that what is being shown to all of you is simply and possibly a dust particle within the lens. Okay, now I've seen this. I've actually tricked myself into, you know, viewing and seeing these mysterious pink orbs on these FAA webcams. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I could sit here all damn day and I could view these FAA webcams and I could show you pink orb anomalies in the sky in these photographs all day. I could make 20 videos a day, but it's not what we're looking at. Okay, now let's just put some perspective into this. Scientists say that we're 93 million miles away from the sun. So with the sun's glare, with its corona so powerful, what makes you think that one little individual person standing on the ground is actually going to take a photograph of it? Is it possible? I don't know. But the more and more I see all of this disinformation, the more and more I see them ramping up their campaign to, well, basically desensitize you to the information. I mentioned last month and the month before that there is going to be a set period of time after the first couple of days of the beginning of every month. There's a very high possibility that we're going to be able to capture this object or these objects near the sun, and we're going to probably capture them on either the SDO or the Stereo Core 2 or the coronagraphs with SOHO, the C2 and the C3. Possibly even, you know, some of the SETI imaging. But as of lately, you know, the whole SETI imaging, yeah, you're not going to see anything there. So once again, you know, I find this object in a set pattern. I know for myself, I know when I can find it. And sure enough, after the first couple of days of this month, lo and behold, I capture it again because I knew exactly where to look. So just getting past all of the disinformation that, you know, one of these objects is going to crash into the earth. Folks, that's never going to happen, ever. Okay? It's just not going to happen. But getting back to Fatima and what happened on that day, these are some of the photographs. These are some of the actual photographs that I dug up that are showing the vast amount of people that were there to witness this event. Excuse me. It made newspapers everywhere. But here's something that really gets me. This seems to have upset the church. And that's a big, big key to what we're researching here. We all know that the Vatican has the biggest and the baddest telescope located on a mountaintop in Arizona, and they named it Lucifer. Now, you know, its acronym for its name has a purpose and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, coming from the Roman Catholic Church, naming the telescope Lucifer, you know, don't you think that they could possibly come up with another name? God. But anywho, going back eons, the church has been investigating on its own outer space and astronomy. Doctor, you want to elaborate a little bit on what the church has been doing with astronomy over these eons?
Yes, I mean, well, first of all, whatever discovery is made that seems to question their authority and power, they seem to try and put a stop to it. It started with Copernicus, Galileo Galilei. You know, they fought with every astronomer that came up with a true understanding of the universe. In other words, they have been trying to stop real understanding of the universe for centuries. So it's not surprising that whenever people saw something like what happened in 1917 here, that they immediately made things secret and stopped people from talking about it and things like that. And even their observatories, they're not just open to anybody. I think that they allow some people from the media to go in. But I've heard before that the moment they start asking very probing questions, they are shown the way out.
Yeah, they get shut down very, very rapidly.
Yeah.
I did see one of those, a team of investigative reporters that came all the way from the UK, and they were granted a very minimal insight to the Lucifer telescope in Arizona. Now, once again, getting back to this information, and look at these people. You know, I mean, every single one of them staring up into the sky, and they're literally viewing this very strange occurrence. And if you go back to this era, folks, 1917, you know, people were very religious in a different sense as they are today. You know, technology has really gotten in our way of life. But back in this era, folks, these people had nothing. The year 1917, okay? People weren't buying bread in a store. They made their own bread. They used the land for the majority of their food. They didn't have super centers like Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now, I'm going to go ahead and show you a little bit more, and I want you to just look at these people. Look at the clothes they're wearing. You know, just a basic sign of the times. Taking you directly back in time. Look at this little boy. He's literally praying. All of these people, this lady, their hands folded.
Yes.
Look at the looks on their faces.
They see it as a sign from God, and so
Exactly.
they were really praying because of it.
I'm sure a lot of these people probably thought to themselves that it was possibly the end of the world. Who knows? Now, this was a headline of a photograph that I found. It says, Sun Miracle of Fatima, October 1917, 70,000 people. Now, there's banners in front of the picture, but just look back up in here. Look, there are just people everywhere. 70,000 plus people witnessed this event. Now, this is a photograph that was sent to me, and I believe this came either from Russia or Vietnam within the last couple of days. And this is what we're looking at. I'm just going to zoom in. It might pixelate a little bit, but very, very odd. You know, I looked back as far as I can into eclipses during this time frame. There were none. In 1930, the church, the Vatican, deemed this to be a miracle in 1917, that event. But it took them that long, from 1917 to 1930, to deem this whole event a miracle. And then I got to thinking, well, what type of a miracle really is this? Because in today's modern times, we wouldn't think of this as a miracle. We would think of this as some type of, astrological event, such as what we went through with the fake solar eclipse that we saw. When was that? Back in August? When was that?
Yeah, it was August 21st.
Yeah,
I believe.
So this was what was sent in to me, leading me into a lot of this information. So that definitely looks very abnormal. You will have individuals say that, this is just an anomaly from the camera, and so on and so forth. Okay, it does look very, very strange. And then we go into the only photograph. This is the original photograph from the miracle of the sun in Fatima, October 13th, 1917. The Rome Observatory, I guess this is what this says in Italian, 1951. They had this photograph. I'm going to zoom in, and you could faintly see it in this very, very old photograph.
Yeah.
And this is what these people were looking at.
Mm-hmm.
So, based on camera technology in 1917, and we're talking about those big accordion-looking cameras that, they had to use the flash powder to create the flash. They were on a tripod, and so on and so forth. So, do you think that from 1917 to the digital age today with cameras, we would be getting the same black sun effect?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know that much about camera systems back in that era, but I'm saying it's highly unlikely that this was a camera anomaly, because more than 70,000 people stood in a field and they viewed this clearly. It was published in newspapers around the world. It was highly criticized by the church in the beginning, but I believe under pressure, they had to succumb to what was actually seen that day. Percival Lowell, an astronomer back in the early 1920s, leading into the 1930s, started looking for this so-called Planet X. It makes me believe that a lot of information dating back a very long time, before the birth of Christ, there are so many writings from so many different cultures that lead us to believe that these objects have been in our inner solar system for a very, very long time. There's a very high possibility that, everything that we've been told or led to believe may possibly be false. Simply because this would have upset the religious beliefs of billions of people within Christianity. And I know that might be hard for some people to swallow, but facts are facts. We know organizations, whether they be religious or governmental, they're constantly withholding information, covering up information, and we may be looking at the first event that was documented and photographed of one of these objects. Is it an object passing in front of the sun? I don't know. But everything now is leading me to believe that These objects have been here for a very, very long time. All of the disinformation that may have been placed out there with the notorious planet Nibiru and Planet X. You know, they labeled Planet X as in the 10th planet, X as the Roman numeral. So that's where it basically gets its name. We've gone through the whole scenario with Dr. Robert Harrington and many, many others that have been researching, you know, this object or these objects. And ladies and gentlemen, you know, I read some of the comments in the comment section of the videos. I read a lot of the emails and the inbox messages as much as I possibly can, because I get thousands of them. And, you know, nowadays, folks, we're literally going to have to think outside of the box. You're almost going to have to question everything that you were taught or you learned about our solar system. Just because it's in a 9th grade Earth space science textbook, or just because NASA or a space agency or a government or astronomers tell you one thing, we don't know if it's the truth. We obviously see how much we are lied to as a people, set and made to believe what we are told. See, I'm just not going to buy that. And I certainly don't care if it's a religious organization such as the Vatican or any government. Just because they tell you that these are the facts doesn't mean you have to believe it. Just because they're an authoritative figure doesn't mean that we have to believe it. Because for eons and eons, throughout all of time, the common man has been deceived and led to believe one thing. So today, as we sit here and you listen to me and Dr. Albers, all of you really need to start thinking outside of the box. So we don't know about everything in our solar system. There are so many things that we don't even know about our own moon. And why? Why hasn't astronauts been back to the moon? So much information coming out about, you know, alien life and other planets being discovered. Did you ever wonder why they're only showing you information about these exoplanets that are so far away? Do you ever notice how NASA and the European space agencies, do you ever notice how they never really talk about things in our inner solar system that are close enough for us to observe better? Like Mercury, like Mars. You know, I know there's been a lot, you know, going on about Mars and our own moon. So much to be uncovered, so close by, but yet they want to push everything down our throats that's 55 light years away. Who cares about what is 55 light years away? 10 trillion, billion, quadrillion miles away. It doesn't interest me. What's happening to our sun, that interests me. What's going on with the moon, that interests me. Strange things with the illumination of Venus, Mercury, Mars, our own planet. Things that are close to us. But yet, really, the only thing that's verbalized to us is what is so far out there that we as a people will never see. So you really start to wonder, everything that you've learned, everything that you've been told, could all be just one big fat lie. So in 1917, when these people saw this black sun, they saw this event, they were startled. Anything that upsets the apple cart, that causes these organizations, such as the church or governments, to lose the power over the people, will be squashed. I've mentioned this 100 times before. The biggest fear of these organizations is to lose the power that they have over you. And I'm sure each and every one of you fully understand what I'm saying. So this event in 1917, this just may be kicking off some deeper research that I think I'm going to definitely look into. But what I've looked into already is clearly showing me that these objects have been here for a very long time. Maybe one of them, maybe several of them. We just don't know, and I don't think that we will really ever know. I mean, this may be buried deep in the X-Files like aliens. We know they exist. Why won't they just come right out onto the White House lawn, make a statement, throw out the information, and, let people start to understand more about our solar system and life that is out there? I mean, for God's sakes, come on. We cannot possibly be the only living creatures in this galaxy or this universe, or possibly even our own solar system. So once again, they keep trying to fool the people, maintain control of the people. This has been a fact of life since the beginning of mankind, for God's sakes. They have to manipulate everything that we see or believe in. They have to maintain that control. But is that what life is all about? Somebody else maintaining control over you? And now, ladies and gentlemen, we see technology being used to manipulate what you see, what you hear, and what you believe in. You may not even know that you're being a victim of it. But we're going to go further into this information because I think that it is very critical what happened that day, what these people actually saw, what was actually documented. And now, with some of this video that has come out from Russia and from Vietnam and some of these other countries over there in the South Pacific, there is a video out there. I actually have it, but again, I don't want to show it on here because I don't want any pop-up copyright strikes being placed against me fraudulently. So I'm going to contact the owner of the video and see if I could get some type of permission to show it to all of you. because what it shows is an event. It goes click back here. What it shows is an event like this in Vietnam, with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people staring up into the sky, watching this black object in front of the sun. And this just happened a few days ago. So what were they looking at? You know, my calculations on where this object is in relation to the Earth moving in its orbit around the sun, I knew that I would start catching glimpses of it again in the beginning of the month. And probably for the next possibly 14 to 21 days, you know, it's kind of visible to us as we orbit around the sun, and the sun is also rotating. And I just showed a couple of videos the last 2 days. I've already started to capture this object again. The lower left-hand corner of the sun. And then a few days ago, if a lot of you watch Mr. MBB333, his YouTube channel, he showed some coronagraph video of an object that he thought he caught in some video footage dating back to April 14th, 2015. He was pointing something out in that C3 coronagraph that he thought that was very unusual, a light signature. Excuse me, my allergies are killing me. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring that information up, and I'm going to show you, because he was basically asking if anyone with more knowledge looking at these types of photographs would be able to look at these photographs and help out and possibly just look at the photographs. Now, I took him up on that, and I went to the coronagraph, the C3. I pulled up the exact same time stamp that he was showing. I analyzed that one frame because it was only in one frame, a 12-minute frame. This is what I saw. There is one massive object right here, and this was in a coronal mass ejection. Again, you could see a very large dark sphere and another smaller one, and there looks to be other smaller spheres around these objects.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I sent all the information to him by email. Never heard back from him. So he has all of the photographs, everything that I discovered. Let's go ahead and, yeah, we'll pull all these up and I'll show them to you. This was a little bit of a darker look at it. And because I had to zoom in so much, I tried to put these in high definition, but, you know, it's very hard catching these screenshots from the C3 and the C2 because it's so highly pixelized, and they're playing with the colors, and they're doing everything they can to try to hide what is actually there. But when you really look at it and you stare at it, you can clearly see that is a huge sphere. That is another sphere. These spheres, they're just not going to appear if they actually weren't there. So I'll just keep on going through these. Now, this is the actual C3 coronagraph. And this is what he was looking at right here. He was looking at this light signature right there. I'll zoom in so you can see it. Okay, this light signature here, this little step down view of light, this is basically the light signature that a planet gives off on the coronagraph when you see it passing behind the sun. So basically you'll see the round white sphere, and on each side of it you will see this light signature, this little step down light signature. We've all seen it. And that's what he was looking at. But he didn't see what was actually there. So I took it upon myself to analyze that piece of footage. And lo and behold, look right here. Here's a big bad object right there.
Mm-hmm.
It even has something smaller right there. Now, it's highly pixelized, but you could still see the perfect spherical formation. Okay, folks, so that's just not going to happen in one of these photographs unless a solid spherical object was there. And then, as I looked a little further, I see these two objects. So right over here, this big black area, let's pan back out. This is the sun. This is the occulter. The small circle here is the actual size of the sun. This was a pretty big coronal mass ejection. I keep telling you folks, when we're having these coronal mass ejections, there is something disturbing the sun. There is an interaction between these objects and the sun, which creates the disturbance, which therefore creates the coronal mass ejection.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could almost set your watch to this now. So here we go. This was in April 14th, 8:30 a.m. UTC time in 2015. This is, you're able to see this for yourself on the LASCO C3. And that would be the light blue coronagraph. So, I mean, other than changing some contrast and colors, I haven't done anything else to these photographs, but I needed to see what was there. And that's what is there. Bingo, bingo. And this big boy here. And this one almost looks striped. There's possibly another object here. There's also possibly another object way down here.
Mm-hmm. I think there is, yeah.
So you're just not going to have these arches or these spheres that look solid. You're just not going to see this by accident. They're there. So this is a little bit of a blurred photograph. I was trying to get it to be a little more clear, but this photograph didn't turn out that well. So we'll just skip right over this one. The same thing with this. You could barely see them, but you can see the coloration and the perfect spheres. I'll just zoom in. It might pixelate a little bit. Hey, what do you think, Doc?
Yeah, I think that it's very clear that there are objects there, and these objects I know cluster. They attach themselves to the sun and to each other because they make magnetic connections. They have magnetic fields. They are stars of different sizes, and they connect magnetically to each other, and they hold stationary positions with respect to each other. And now I know they hold stationary positions with respect to the sun as well. Then they provoke the sun, as you said, into having CMEs and solar flares. They do that by pulling on the sun's magnetic field, which also confines the sun's plasma. So when the sun's magnetic field's pulled upon, the sun cannot hold on to its plasma as well. So we are then going to get these solar flares and these CMEs, especially if they are close to sunspot group regions. So this is exactly what keeps happening. And then inside the CMEs, we see these objects. They actually are highlighted by the CMEs. Also, they move away from the sun. They are repelled by the sun when these CME events happen. So we see a large amount of objects usually move with the CME plasma away from the sun. And this is what I think we are seeing here. Yes, they definitely make these groups of objects. They attach to each other.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Now, again, same photograph. I mean, this was only one frame, folks. This was all that we got from what Mr. MB333, what he saw. And he is correct. When you're looking at this type of light signature coming from the coming from a planetary object, this is what you see. Now, you can't see the other side of it because it's engulfed in the CME itself over here to the right. But the left side of the light signature, well, it stuck out like a sore thumb, and that's what he saw. But what he didn't see was this. It's clearly there. It has another smaller spherical body right there. And then these two. And looking at this now, and you can even see there is another sphere here. There's a big one and another one, but there's 1, 2, at least 3 smaller spheres. You can see other smaller ones around there. We don't really know what they are, but this is what was there. Pretty incredible. So if one of these objects happens to, move in front of the sun at the right type of an angle, is that what we're seeing as far as this black sun anomaly in these photographs and these videos? There's a high possibility that, this is what these people saw in 1917. Because it seems like from that point on, and from 1930, when the church deemed that to be a miracle, it seems just like, wow, the information got shut down. But also in 1930, Percival Lowell, an astronomer, a well-known astronomer, started becoming very vocal about what he was viewing, and therefore labeling this object a planet X, a planet 10. That was in 1930. And the Vatican deemed the Fatima event a miracle in 1930. Oh boy. So there was probably the beginning of shutting down the information.
Yes, probably.
It was just a miracle. No big deal. No big deal, people. Go back to work.
Yeah.
So as we look at this even further in different filters, we can see. I hope all of you can see this clearly on your screens, whatever you're viewing this as. Turn up the resolutions on your YouTube video players. I've mentioned that before. Click on that little gear icon, bump it up to 720, 1080. I always produce my videos in higher definition so you folks can be able to see things more clearly, even if you're using a cell phone. So again, this is in 2015, April 14th, 8:30 a.m. UTC time. So this is what Mr. MB found. And here's our bigger object right up here. Mm-hmm. And now you can even see the smaller object, which it could possibly be, you know, another core. We don't exactly know what they are. But in order for them to be this close to the sun and interact with the sun, they themselves have to be some type of stellar core, some type of star. Because if it was just a rocky planet, such as the Earth, well, the sun would just destroy it.
Yeah.
I mean, just basically melt it into nothing and blow it to smithereens.
Yeah, we can't forget that the sun's, the Earth's core, which is made out of iron, would melt at 7,000 Kelvin. It would turn into molten iron at 7,000 degrees Kelvin. And the sun's corona is at millions of degrees Kelvin. So you can imagine what happens to a rocky planet at that temperature. It basically becomes gas, becomes plasma itself.
It just melts it into nothing.
Yeah.
So I just tried looking at this, you know, in these different filters, and you know, something that kind of caught my eye, and I'm really not sure about it, is I kept seeing once again a very defined cutout of a sphere right here. And I'll just back off a little bit, and you just keep seeing a perfect sphere right there, this arch. You know, it shows up. Is it something that's much larger? I don't know. These photographs are not clear enough to define that. However, these objects, this one, and this one, are clear. Very clear. I don't care what you say. I don't care who you are. Those objects are there. They are in this photograph from the core, or from the C3 coronagraph. Once again, if you go to the SOHO website, I'm not going to provide links for all of this stuff, people. If you're investigating this, you know how to get to SOHO. Simply go there, plug in the dates for April 14th, 2015, and look at it for yourself. It is only in the frame of 8:30 a.m. UTC time. Stop the photograph right there, hold on to it, and take a screen capture of it, and start looking to the upper left-hand corner, and sure enough, you'll start to see it. You're going to have to change some of the contrast and coloring, and then you will clearly see these objects very well defined, the best that we could. There they are. So that's 2015. Boom, boom. They're there. This is just another filter. I'm trying to bring this this photograph out a little bit more. And that's what we get. Very interesting. This one just, again, another filter. Trying to get a little bit of a clearer definition. Not too good, but you could definitely see they're there. I'm going to go ahead and back out of here. And then what I captured just yesterday and today, and you could all go look at this for yourself. This is coming from the SDO, Solar Dynamics Observatory. The majority of all of you know how to get there. Punch in the dates, Look at the photograph. These are the higher definition photographs. You can see the timestamp right there. This is a composite image. And there you go. There's one of them right there. Right where I thought it would be on this date. Sure enough. It's not Mercury. So you can see it. You could all see it for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
This is just another view of it.
It looks like it might be more than one object.
Yeah, it's just not clear enough.
Mm-hmm.
But in the day before this, just let me get to it here. I was just trying to zoom in a little bit more, but it's very hard to zoom in and keep the clarity. Now, in the day before, on November 3rd, you can see this big object right there. So this is one day before that smaller object showed up. You could almost see a little bit of a plasma connection with the sun right there. If I zoom in real tight on this, it's probably going to blur. You know, some people will say, oh, you're looking at a coronal prominence. Okay, well, prove it to me. Prove to me that's a coronal prominence, because I've researched coronal prominences. I know exactly what they are. I know how they're formed. They are an incredible phenomenon on the sun. This is not a coronal prominence. It is a perfect sphere. I've been catching this object at this position and a few other positions for more than a year now. I believe that I have shown more than enough evidence to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that these objects exist. They are there. And, you know, I'm starting to think that these objects have been there for a very, very, very long time. Going back to what I mentioned earlier, is everything that we were taught about our solar system could possibly be shadowed by these other objects. And science, possibly the church and governments, for whatever reason, they don't want you to know about it. Why? Does the looming of destruction of our planet play a role in it? It may possibly be. But so many things are being withheld from us for such a long period of time. And people just get dumbed down. They get dumbed down by their church. They get dumbed down by their government. And you all know it. So this was on November 3rd, a few days ago.
Mm-hmm.
This was going back to the 2015 photograph. So as you can see, I took many, many different filters of this object, trying to get a better view of it. And it's there. I took this photograph October 30th from the Core 2, stereo ahead Core 2. And this was, I actually discovered it on the 30th of October, but it appeared on the 27th of October. There's your timestamp. There's all the information you need to go investigate it for yourself. So I saw this go by rather quickly on the Core 2 So I went back, I screenshot the information, and you could see, looks kind of blurry, but it's a perfect sphere. There's another sphere here. There's some more, there's some more going on around here. It seems to be engulfed in some type of a gaseous cloud. Naturally, there was a CME. It was provoking the sun once again. And they don't want you to see that. Now, these were photographs that I changed the filters a little bit so I can clearly see what was there. You be the judge. What do you think? That's just like some type of photographic anomaly? You got a sphere here. You have another one possibly here. A cloud of whatever, gas, debris, whatever. And you have your huge sphere right in there. Doc, what would your explanation of this be? Photographic anomaly or solid object?
Well, I think it's a solid object. Don't forget, these objects pull or draw the sun's plasma, and it envelops them. Plus with whatever ionizing material they have. So there's a mixture. And this is what it looks like. Looks like a cloud of plasma surrounding one of these objects. It's actually not just one object, because as you pointed out, there are several other objects around the larger object. And that's what we keep seeing over and over again, that these objects form clusters. There's not just one, but always several together.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it, folks. I mean, we know the objects are there. We just have to discern what is fake and what is real. I'm not doing any type of overlays. I'm not putting these objects into these photographs. I always provide you with the dates, the locations, the instruments that I'm using, so you can go take a look at it yourself. Because I do hours and hours and hours and hours of research every single day. This is what I do. So therefore, I do have the time to research this. And I've been doing it for a very long time, and I know where to look, when to look, and I know what I'm looking at. So I just applied a few different filters to these, this one photograph. That's all that we were given. That's it. One frame. That's just how these instruments work. But you can see. There definitely seems to be some type of a cloud.
Yes. There's a whole group of objects there close to the cloud. So
yeah, there's definitely a few there. I mean, some of them aren't that well defined because of these instruments and the clarity of them. But again, we know it's there. We know that they are orbiting around the sun. I think it's a very short orbit, a very tight elliptical orbit around the sun, as I have shown before in my calculations. There are some other people out there that are making some other claims. I don't know where they're getting their research. I don't know how they're basing their information on their observations. I just don't know. I don't even pay attention to it.
I think some of them, at least when they arrive, seem to have some kind of very close orbit where they go into the sun's corona repeatedly. And as I've discovered recently, some of them actually get to the point where they are in a stationary position with respect to the sun. So we get both happening.
It's almost reminds me of the way that the sun, or excuse me, the moon and the earth interact. You know, like we only see one side of the sun, or excuse me, we only see one side of the moon. And people think that the moon doesn't rotate. Well, the moon does rotate. But because of the rotation of the earth, the rotation of the moon, and our orbit around the sun, that's why we only kind of get to see one side of the moon.
Yeah.
So this may be a similar dynamic of what we're viewing with, you know, Planet X and its interaction with the sun. It's a possibility. I don't know for sure. Doctor, could that be a possibility, what I'm trying to describe?
Yeah, definitely. As you mentioned, the moon's orbital period is quite low. It orbits slowly, and it orbits at around the same rate as the time it takes to orbit the Earth. So it takes about 29 days to make one rotation, and it takes about 29 days to do one orbit around the Earth. And that's why it always shows us the same side.
Now, someone just asked in the chat, I mean, once again, I don't know if people are listening to me or not. I just went over this information. Why would these objects not be burned up by the sun? I mean, we just covered this information not more than 5 minutes ago. So if somebody's new to the live stream right now, Doctor, explain to them very quickly, briefly, once again, why these specific objects are not burned up by the sun.
So again, an object has to be extremely dense to have a very high melting temperature. So the higher the density goes, the higher the melting point will be. The Earth's core has a density of 13 grams per centimeter cube, and that's 13 times denser than water. And the Earth's core will melt at 7,000 degrees Kelvin. Now, the cores of a star are much denser than the core of a planet. So the sun's core is believed to have a density of 150 grams per centimeter cubed. And I would suppose then that these stellar cores would have about that density, which is an extremely high density. So an object of that density will not melt, will have an extremely high melting point, which will be above the millions of degrees that we would expect, that we know that the sun's corona is at. The sun's corona has an average temperature between 800,000 Kelvin and 2 million Kelvin. So the object, a solid object, in order to remain a solid object, it has to be extremely dense not to melt and therefore remain as a solid object. And the only objects that can do that are the cores of stars, because they are extremely dense. So this is why we call them stellar cores. These are stars, and they operate a lot like stars. They look a lot like white dwarfs, except that they're not as bright. I've written several articles comparing the two. They have many of the characteristics. They draw plasma from main sequence stars, just like white dwarfs. They have ionizing envelopes that are in the shape of a ring, a fat ring. So it's toroidal in shape, just like white dwarfs, except that they mainly emit infrared light. So I started out calling these objects brown dwarf stars because they are beyond the stage of white dwarf and are basically cooled down white dwarfs. But these objects have these characteristics. These are the objects that we have in the sun's corona that I have been studying for many months, and I've been writing about this. So these are not planets. If they were planets, they would what's called sublimate. They would melt, they would become gaseous, they would be absorbed by the sun. But these objects remain a solid object, so they are actually stars. They are old stars that have gone through the red giant phase, the white dwarf phase, and have cooled down and become what we now call stellar cores. And in that process, they lose most of their ionizing material, the outer layers of the star, to the point that the core of the star itself becomes exposed and can be seen.
So that's just basically like, referring back to the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
The Earth has a core.
Yeah, that's right.
So, folks, this is what we're looking at possibly. We're possibly looking at the core remnants of stars. We don't exactly know 100%, but what we do know is that there is a multitude of foreign bodies that are out there near our sun, and they are wreaking havoc on our sun.
That's right.
As I have stated before, and I will make this statement again, our biggest fears will not come directly from Planet X, these objects. Our biggest fear will be from the reaction that the sun has when these objects get close during their orbit around the sun. And we have seen it time and time again, very well documented by me and Dr. Albers. We have shown everyone. We have literally tried to show the world, and we have gotten blocked and threatened, and our lives turned upside down because we want to show everybody this. We've been called liars and charlatans and criminals. For what? For trying to show humanity what is really there? For God's sakes, it's part of science. Doc, I'm getting a feedback again. You have anything running on your computer? Nothing?
Nothing.
I keep getting this feedback. I don't know, it's driving me insane.
I'm not hearing anything, Scott.
Anyways, getting right back to this. Here's the deal, folks. You can follow whatever YouTube channel, whatever website, whatever Facebook group you want. You could listen to all the mumbo jumbo out there. You could read all the articles. You could flood your mind with all of it. We already know what's there. We have a pretty damn good idea. No, we're not going to have a collision with one of these objects and the Earth. It's not going to happen. Our biggest threat will be from the sun. Please pay attention to what I'm telling you. If you belong to these Facebook groups and you are serious about what you're doing, then point the people in the right direction. When you see them following idiots like Steve Olson and now Dave Dobbs and some of these other bozos out there, that they don't know their ass from a hole in the ground, point your people in the right direction. There is no planetary collision ever going to happen. We have a bigger threat of an asteroid or meteor hitting this planet and causing mass destruction. Ladies and gentlemen, do you see what the governments are doing? Do you see what they are preparing for? They are not preparing for a planetary collision. They are preparing for a blackout. A blackout.
Yes, due to a solar event.
The loss of electricity. Listen, I know that there's probably 95% of the people listening to me right now that wouldn't know what the hell to do if you lost power right now. Are you prepared? Do you have enough food, water, and protection to last for a day, a week, a month, a year, 10 years? Do you understand the amount of time that it has taken for this world's population to develop a power grid? Now we rely on this power grid more than ever. You wonder why they're chemtrailing. There's probably a multitude of reasons why they chemtrail. One of them, to probably disguise what is there so we don't actually see it. And number two, they may actually be trying to deflect harmful radiation onto this planet. Once again, we don't know because nobody in government has the balls to step up and just be truthful with the world populations. Hey, folks, this is what we have to do to protect ourselves. But the reason why is because they're so damn scared that they're going to lose control over their people. Once again, it all leads back to controlling the people. You are controlled in so many freaking ways you don't even realize it. Regulations, rules, laws, it's ridiculous. So if you guys are involved in these Facebook groups, you need to get in there and you need to start taking charge and informing people of what's really going on. There shouldn't be any more talk about the mythical Nibiru planet. Because, I fell prey to it years ago in the beginnings of my research, not realizing that all of it could have been a massive disinformation campaign to point people in one direction and then get them following it. And then the troll operations come in and they make fun of you and they discredit you and they just, turn your life upside down. Oh, you don't think any of it's possible? Think again. The more and more you delve into this information, ladies and gentlemen, the more and more you become a target. Each and every one of you, including myself and Dr. Albers. Why do you think that you haven't been hearing that much from both of us? Number one, they've hammered my YouTube channel down into the ground. Okay? That's just that. I really don't care about that, but I can't reach the amount of people that I want. They have really, really targeted Dr. Albers and I in a very serious way. I worry about my safety every single minute of the day. I worry about Dr. Albers' safety every minute of the day. We've already gone through a whole bunch of things, folks, that I haven't even publicized on YouTube. I mean, they're shutting truther channels down every day. Every day. I don't know if any of you listen to Richie from Boston. I love the guy, man. He's, he's spot on a lot of the subjects that he talks about. I don't think he does harm to anybody. Got a lot of viewers. A lot of people respect him. A lot of people like listening to him, including myself. They just hammered him the other day. And if I'm not mistaken, he has a secondary channel. I mean, he's just doing his thing, man. He ain't hurting anybody. He's not bothering anybody. People are subscribed to my channel, the doctor's channel, Richie's channel, BP Earthwatch, Mr. MB, whatever, whoever you listen. People subscribe to hear the information. You have a choice. So why should they delegate what you can and cannot see if you are subscribed to see it? That's like you watching your favorite cable TV channel, and all of a sudden the cable company says, hey, Bob, we don't want you watching this anymore. So when it comes on at its scheduled time, we're going to block you. Everybody else can see it, but we're going to block you. So that's what's happening. I know my channel's blocked in probably 2/3 of this globe. I know what they've done. But going back, if you guys are involved in these Facebook groups, guys, listen, start getting your followers and your people, start getting them away from the basic Nibiru nonsense, because that's basically what it is. Yeah, you're hearing this from my mouth because that's what it is. I had to prove to myself, with years of research, years of investigating this, digging and picking through all of the information and trying to put it together, learning more and more about what these governments do in their evil, stinking ways. So it was a huge disinformation campaign. It's easy for them to do. They do it every day. The fact is, there's a multitude of these objects out there orbiting the sun. They are part of our solar system. Do you think that nothing could infiltrate a solar system anywhere in the universe? If that's what you think, then you're wrong. Just think of the vastness of the galaxy. Just the solar system alone. Anything can come in at any time. I get so many people sending me this absolutely asinine, ridiculous sandbox simulation of a brown dwarf star entering the solar system and ejecting all of the planets into outer space. Folks, that is the most ridiculous thing that I have ever seen. We could not base our investigations on some sandbox simulation, because there are too many variables that have to be inputted by a human being. So you're creating the simulation, and you want me to believe the simulation that you manipulated. Are you freaking crazy? I'm not stupid. Simulations by NASA's tools, their simulation tools, their observatory tools, everything can and will be flawed. We have to go on exact observations, what we are finding with the human eye and the human brain. Now, a simulation is pretty cool, yeah. But when you, as a human being, have to put in the parameters and the information, you are manipulating the data. Therefore, you can't trust that data. Never before, as far as we know, no scientists, no one has ever documented physically a brown dwarf star or any dwarf star of any kind or composition entering the solar system. So people ask, well, why don't you believe the simulation? That's why. It's a simulation. Do you even imagine the amount of data that you would have to place into a computer system that developed the simulation? I don't think that there's a human being on Earth that has that knowledge. So therefore, if you don't have the knowledge to input your data, your simulation is skewed, fake, and false.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, did I put that okay, Doctor? I mean, do you
Yes,
think I summed that up?
absolutely, Scott. I think nowadays they've turned physics upside down. Physics is supposed to be based on observation because we don't understand the universe fully. It's only when we know everything that's going on with the universe that we would be able to create a simulation, because then we would know all the parameters, all the laws that are in place, and then we could simulate what happens anywhere in the universe. But we don't know what's going on. That's why physics is based on observation. We observe what happens in the universe, and we try to understand what that means and how that would work. So what we have is these objects in the sun's corona. We observe them. And I've written many times that they actually show that gravity is something very different from what we have been taught. These objects, through observation, are teaching us that gravity is not what we think it is. But what are these simulations built upon? They are built upon the fact that gravity is everything that we have been taught. You see how that's turned around. That's why the simulation doesn't work, because the universe does not work like that. And observation has taught us that fact. These objects interact with the sun through the electric and the magnetic interaction. And they actually show that gravity is not a primary force. It's not a constant force in the universe. It is an electrical force. It's a weak, attractive, dielectric force, almost like the molecular forces inside solids. That's what these telecores are teaching us. And they are teaching us, if we want to learn, through observation. And physics is supposed to be built on observation, but nowadays they think, well, if the theory tells us that it's like this, then if we see an observation that's contrary to the theory, what do? We throw out the observation. That is ridiculous. That's not what physics is.
Yeah, it is quite ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot that goes on in the world nowadays that is just absolutely ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
So, they basically think that, people are not going to be able to swallow the truth about alien life. They think that people are not going to be able to swallow that everything we've been taught about the solar system is a complete freaking lie. People have asked before, is the sun really 93 million miles away from the Earth? Let me tell you something, folks. I'm starting to doubt that. You know, over all of my observations over the years, I think to myself, and as of lately, wow, even with the misty chemtrail in front of the sun, it looks so freaking big in the sky. And then you try to comprehend 93 million miles. God, we can't even comprehend 1,000 miles, let alone 93 million.
Yeah.
So again, these are observations made with the human eye in conjunction with your brain. And if you just sit down and start to think about it, you'll start coming up with your own answers. Not just what I'm telling you or what Dr. Albers is telling you or what mainstream science has been teaching everyone for a very long time. Who says that it's wrong to think outside of the box? Who says that it is wrong to question everything? Question everything. You could even question what we're talking about right now, because I don't have all of the answers. I'm trying to get them legitimately. I fight tooth and nail every single day between the threats, the death threats, the defamation, the trolling operations, and whatever else they're doing to Dr. Albers and I. I'll be honest with all of you, I mean, physically, I think that they're actually doing something to both of us. I've been thinking about how I've been feeling, things that have been happening. They're not coincidences. Been to the doctor many times, even the emergency room a few times. Yeah. Clean bill of health. But yet, for the last few months, I wake up in the middle of the night. I'm wide awake. I've got small little burns around the back of my neck. I have them now. They're like little burns. Maybe, no bigger than almost like a cigarette butt. A little bit smaller. I wear a solid silver necklace that was given to me by a family member, I think back in 1991 in Italy. And it's never left my neck. It's always on me. But is something being done that, the silver necklace around my neck is actually conducting whatever and leaving these small burns on the back of my neck, right where my necklace sits? Doctor, how is silver with conducting energies?
Well, it may not be the best conductor, but it will conduct electricity, of course. Definitely.
What about microwave energies? What happens whenever you would, let's just say, for instance, start to slightly heat up, or let's just say, for instance, that, microwave energy came in contact with silver, such as my silver necklace.
Yes. Microwave energies would cause all kinds of problems, and possibly will lead to some induced current in the silver. Yes. But mainly it damages the cells on your body. It just starts destroying cells, and your body will react with a sort of an allergic reaction, perhaps, by trying to regenerate its cells. It may look like an allergic reaction, and little bumps and things may appear on your skin. I think that may be the case.
Yeah. I mean, it's been occurring for almost a year now.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen it getting significantly worse.
Yeah.
You know, doctors don't have any explanation.
Yeah, you know, Scott, that when I was still lecturing, I believe that towards the end, when I was giving my last lectures, that I was getting zapped during the time that I was standing up and teaching my students, because I started feeling suddenly like extremely ill whilst lecturing, like I was going to faint. And so I think I was being attacked that way. And
well, yeah, I mean, I remember that you even went to the doctors several times for this.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that started happening once that man from Astronomy Live attacked me and the university and so on. That started happening as well, where I'd feel incredibly ill whilst lecturing. I felt like I was going to faint. And I don't think that ever stopped completely, although I never felt as bad as when I was lecturing then. I think they were really trying to kill me at the time. But that has continued to happen now and then. Yeah. So I think
there's also the manipulation of your thought process. And
yes,
the more and more that I've been digging into a certain subject, and I want all of you to pay very, very close attention to me right now. If you have a pen and paper handy or something to write down, I want you guys to start doing your own individual research on a term called gang stalking. G-A-N-G, gang stalking. This is a technique that's been going on for a very long time. It has gotten more sophisticated. It has actually gotten more violent. It's actually gotten more dangerous. And technology is on their side, not ours. You know, ladies and gentlemen, I do want to live the rest of my life, but you know, however many years I have left, I would like to lead them in a normal way, even though I've chosen to touch on some subjects of interest, dealing with our planet X, what's happening in our inner solar system, what's happening with our sun. And because of that, Dr. Albers and myself and many others are paying the price in different ways. The other day, I had such the craziest experience. I belong to another group, a gentleman that's become pretty good friends with me and a few of his followers. I'm not gonna mention his group or anything like that. But we all chipped in, and we wanted to get one of the group members who wants to start doing his own reporting. He's got a big heart, smart guy, hard worker, has a family. And I put together a little short campaign to get some donations sent in to get him set up with a computer system and everything he needs to start broadcasting. And we did just that. And, you know, I mentioned, hey, I'm going to get the computer. I'm going to get it shipped out to you. and I'm going to help you do this. And, you know, I know that there are, you know, the others that listen and monitor everything that I say. So I went to purchase the computer using my debit card, placed the order for the computer. Not more than 2 hours later, the order was canceled. Jumped through hoops to get this done again the next day, after so-called companies assured me that everything was fine. Replaced the order. I did just that. Once again, within hours, the order was canceled. So I went directly to the retailer. I'm like, hey, what the hell is going on here? I finally, after hours and hours and hours of phone calls, I found out that this big retailer blocked my email account, blocked my debit card, and red flagged my whole account, all the way down to my debit card. And they froze my bank. So I tried for days to make the purchase for our group member, and they wouldn't let me. Do you believe that? I actually had to move around things to get this done for our group member. So when I left the retailer after getting, you know, pretty much no answers, I had to buy some coffee creamer on the way out the door. $2.39. I go through the self-checkout. I swipe my debit card for $2.39, and it declined the charge. Huh. Dr. Albers was standing right there with me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said to myself, well, how the hell is that possible? Yeah, I'll tell you how it's possible, is because they froze my bank. They red flagged everything from the store retailer to my email address and my debit card. Then the next day, once again, I had to spend a lot of time on the phone to get this figured out. My bank, they had no idea why this occurred. So that's just going to show you that getting into this information, folks, you know, it's very risky. If you're really going to get in depth in this, research it and uncover it like I do, you better be prepared. That's all I have to say. You better be prepared. It's not a glamorous thing. I'm not some freaking YouTube celebrity. You know, like PewDiePie. You know, I don't consider myself a celebrity. People have used terminology with me in you know, emails. Hey, I'm one of your biggest fans. Folks, I'm not some type of superstar. I don't have a fan base. I never jumped into this on YouTube to develop a fan base. I'm no type of celebrity. I'm an ordinary man. I consider myself to be highly intelligent and very, analytical. I try to use my mind and my brain. I'm not in this to deceive anybody. I am simply here to show you what I'm finding. If you want to believe it, you can believe it. If you don't, then don't watch the information. I try to provide you with enough information for you to go back and make your own observations. Dr. Albers and I have taken some pretty big risks, whether you want to believe it or not. Are they getting to me? Probably. I'm only one man. I'm just a human being. I'm sure if they want to take me out, they can do it right now as we're live streaming this. Are they paying attention to what I'm doing? Most definitely. Are they listening to every word that comes out of my mouth? Most definitely. It's scary. Mm-hmm. You're not a celebrity. Some people out there that like to, think of themselves as YouTube celebrities because they're well known. You're not really that well known, out of the billions of people on this planet. If you're lucky, 60,000 of them know who you are. That's about it. And with the powers of censorship, I think only about 10% of my subscribers actually see my YouTube channel anymore. And it doesn't matter. I could open up another YouTube channel and another YouTube channel and another YouTube channel. Doesn't matter, folks. They already know who I am. So any stroke of the keyboard that my little fingers perform, they're seeing, they're watching. So there is nothing that I can do to the point where they're not watching me and everything I do. I know a lot of you try contacting me using the Facebook Messenger. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be very honest with you right now. For any of you that try to telephone me on the Messenger, I'm not going to answer the calls because I don't know who you are. You could act like you're a so-called fan and a follower, but I don't know who you are. I've got people sending me messages and emails wanting to meet me in person. I don't know who you are. So no offense. I would advise each and every one of you to be very cautious about what you're doing, who you associate with online, on your computer, in your groups. Because look, folks, here's the deal. Every single one of these Facebook groups has already been infiltrated by the troll organizations and Lord knows who else. If you are delving into this subject matter, you can guarantee that your cell phone transmissions are being monitored. Your internet usage is being monitored. They can even watch what you type on your computer. They can see exactly what you're seeing on your computer screen right now. They can manipulate anything that they want. That is the power that they have. Do you want to be subjected to it? Well, that all depends on how gutsy you are. My presence on YouTube is going to be very minimal. But so all of you understand here tonight that are watching, we just wanted to get some things crystal clear. There is no planetary collision that's ever going to occur. There is no planetary collision. None. We are still researching and investigating every single day based on observations. Dr. Albers and I can't speak for others. I see the information that they put out. Some of it's pretty laughable, and they should know better. Not all of the photographs that I obtain from these instruments are crystal clear. I wish they were. But I do my best. Dr. Albers does her best. And for what I've been seeing lately, all of you that are learning more and more, you're all starting to catch on very quickly. There's a massive network, a massive number of people out there now that have gotten the education. They know what they're looking at. They know what they're looking for. And, all of you, you're all doing a great job. I can't reply to each and every one of your emails because number one, I just don't have the time. And I do go through the photographs, and I'm paying very close attention to your observations and what you're seeing around the world. And don't think for 1 second that that is not helping me. That is helping me tremendously, because we're getting different views from different people in different locations around the world. So if you want to continue to share the photographs with me and your information, that's fine. That's perfect. But I just don't have the time to contact 4, 5, 6, 7, 800 people a day. And please don't think that I'm being rude if I don't return each and every inbox message, because I just don't have the time. But we're all doing our part out there. That much I could see is happening. Now, we really need to break ourselves down. And if we are part of these groups, then you need to get yourself in the right gear, meaning pointing yourself in the right direction, being able to discern what is literally fake and what's a real observation. And the best way is to make the observations yourself. That way, the only person that you are second guessing is yourself. What are your two eyes seeing based on what you found? You understand what I'm trying to say? I'm never going to sit here and just blatantly lie to you, you people. That's just not what I'm about. I'll let you know how I feel. I'll let you know what I see. I'll let you know what my opinions and my theories are. You can accept them, maybe, maybe not. We know what's out there. Our biggest fear should be the interaction with the sun. What would happen? And let's just get into that real quick. Dr. Albers.
Yes, Scott.
If we were in the position and the Earth was just in the wrong place at the wrong time during one of these events, the interaction between our Planet X system and the sun.
Mm-hmm.
A massive plasma ejection,
Yes.
coronal mass ejection, solar flare directed straight towards the Earth. And I'm talking something with some very serious intensity. What would the repercussions be to our planet within minutes, hours, or days?
Yeah, well, usually what happens first is the solar flare. The solar flare is electromagnetic radiation, so that travels at the speed of light, and that would get to Earth in 8 minutes. And the solar flare is enough to take out, to ionize our ionosphere. It creates currents on the surface of the Earth. It takes basically overwhelms the grid, the electrical grid. It causes transformer fires, and it can bring down whole grids for whole nations. And that would be cataclysmic, because it's impossible to suddenly fix everything and bring everything up to normal again. So that could be cataclysmic for our civilization. And then because of that, food distribution would fail, and people would start dying of hunger. So that's the type of thing we'd be facing first. Then comes the CME. The CME is very energetic particles. If we get a huge CME, it can actually ignite our atmosphere. And to the point that the surface of the planet is burnt up. That is, if a CME is basically bad enough. That's how bad as it can get. It can destroy the surface and the atmosphere of a planet that's in its way. But usually it's not that bad. But what we actually have is that these currents that are produced in the power grid, it's not just currents on the surface of the Earth. We get induced currents in the interior of the Earth, and that leads to earthquakes and volcanic eruption. This is the reason why in the last 50 years, volcanic eruptions, seismic activity has been increasing. And that is because the sun is getting more active, possibly because of these objects. I believe it is because of these objects interacting with it and increasing the solar activity. And the objects themselves have magnetic fields, and these magnetic fields induce currents. So we're going to get increased earthquake activity and volcanic activity. This keeps on increasing. Anybody who's been watching this should have been able to notice that it is on the increase, and it's continuously increasing.
Yes, it's getting very dangerous.
Yeah, as you know, a volcanic eruption, a large enough volcanic eruption, can just about end all life on Earth. For example, if Yellowstone were to erupt. So it can be cataclysmic as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing these earthquakes. I mean, for God's sakes, they've really picked up in the magnitudes over 5s and 6s. We've seen that. Now, I put the pop-up chat out there, so I can interact with you guys. It's a little hard for me whenever we're doing these live streams for me to, view the chat and show pictures and, the whole screen share scenario. But, folks, I'm not here trying to, induce fear in all of you. I'm not trying to sit here and be a fear monger and the bearer of bad news. My whole goal, Dr. Albers is the same, and it's basically to, educate, inform people of what's there, what's happening, a better understanding of what our world is going through right now. Maybe we should have tried to have this better understanding a long time ago, but it just wasn't time yet. So I believe everything happens for a reason. And the more people that are becoming outspoken about what is happening in our skies, to our planet, I think the better off we're going to be. We're literally drawing attention to what is happening. I mean, you literally see organizations out there trying to debunk every little thing you say. They defame you, they make stupid videos about you, they stalk you, they try to make your life a miserable hell. It hasn't gotten to the point where, my life is completely miserable, because I laugh at a lot of these people, and I do fight with them, online and within, the trolling community on YouTube, because, I actually enjoy it. I actually enjoy letting them know that they're going to have to work a little bit harder to get to me. It's just my personality. You either love it or you hate it. Hey, whatever. Can't please everybody. We know what's there. So if all of you are listening today and you have the base education on what we're talking about, then you yourself have to step up like, one of the soldiers, and you have to start getting people to understand and believe, and you start putting that word out there also. And I think everybody's been doing a fantastic job doing that. People monitoring volcanoes, people monitoring the earthquake activity, and people monitoring the weather and what's happening with our weather systems worldwide. It is absolutely incredible, and that is a totally other beast that we could spend hours and days talking about. The reason why this is all occurring has nothing to do with global warming in the, I'll just say, political sense. The planet is heating up. It's not from man. Man doesn't have a chance in hell to heat this planet up the way that they politically say. It's just all a big sack of lies. So if you actually had, another source out there with the sun, and this interaction was creating, making the sun produce, let's just say, more heat, more radiation, then what would you need to do to protect your planet? You would probably need to block out the sun. You'd probably have to figure out a way to blanket the earth to deflect some of this radiation, or you're just going to kill everybody, including the elite. They know they'll be done too. So that may be the leading dynamic in the chemtrailing. There's probably a lot of other reasons, like, deflecting our view and deflecting this radiation. But we already know that the radiation levels are just, phew, man, they're through the roof. They're very harmful.
Yeah.
UV rays skyrocketed around the world this past summer. Mr. MB did a fantastic job, him and BP Earthwatch, raising awareness for this and documenting it. And the hammering of the truther channels that are just, dipping into, as they say, conspiracies. Folks, this isn't a conspiracy on our end. It's a conspiracy on their end. They are the ones that make it a conspiracy. I don't. You don't. We simply deserve answers, truthful answers. And who are they to manipulate my life, my existence on this planet? They may act and think they are gods, but they are not. I'm sure you all get my point. So if you're trying to understand over the last 2 years why the weather is completely crazy, and it will probably get worse, this is the reason why. When we say our planet is wobbling, it is truly wobbling. Other scientists and critics and debunkers will say you're full of crap. But the only explanation they can give you is the old explanation based on political global warming, which has been debunked legitimately and scientifically. We know that they are manipulating the weather. We know that things are being done worldwide. We know that the weather is getting very erratic. And folks, these weather anomalies, they can come in quick, they can come in fast, and they can devastate a region very rapidly. I don't know if any of you saw what happened down in Bogota, Colombia, a few days ago. I mean, the streets in Bogota were literally flooded, and flooded with like ice floating in the streets, 3-4 feet high. I got pictures of it. I dropped a quick video on some news footage that I found that came in. But one of the reasons why I don't show all of this that's happening around the world, and I could put 10 videos a day together, is because they're being blocked. They're being banned. So it's almost not worth my time. Now, one place where they're not doing too much of this censoring to me is on Facebook and our Planet X News Facebook page. I can pretty much upload and share whatever I want there without any, real repercussions. So as I've mentioned before, if you're not following the Planet X News Facebook page, get down there to the description box, click on the link, follow the page. And as far as your notifications with that, just go click on that box. And it's either set at default what you see, or let me see it first. More people utilize Facebook on a daily basis than they do YouTube. So start following us on the Planet X News Facebook page. Gives me an opportunity to put more information out there faster. And something that's been occurring over the last couple of weeks, folks, is normally, my channel now, it puts on about 1,000 new subscribers every single week. Over the past 2 weeks, I put on 1,000, 2,000 disappear. So they're preventing a lot of you from being notified of videos and things of that nature, where Facebook doesn't, they don't do that to me. I can post things. You can see the notifications. You can check it out whenever you need to. But it's the only way that, you know, that I could make some contact here and we could put this information together. If you don't have a YouTube or if you don't have a Facebook page, hey, nothing I could do, man. You know, it's very simple to open one up, utilize it, whatever you want to do. You can go to my my websites that I have. The links are in the description box. The videos are up there. Information is posted up there. But you know, they really try to hammer you into the ground with getting the information around. Somebody's asking, what do I know about the wobble now? I mean, the wobble is what it is because we have now gone into the fall solstice, and we're going through the natural tilt of the planet, going into the change of seasons, northern, southern hemisphere. We're definitely going to see, depending on where you live, people are going to see some very, very suspicious weather, some very violent weather. It's going to create some very tragic situations. There's no doubt about that. We're just basically at the point now where we're living through it. It's probably a very high possibility that things are, you know, they're going to get worse as time goes on. We can see the way things are moving with, I got to watch my words here, but we can see very clearly how things are moving with false flags, government manipulation, media manipulation. You all know what I'm talking about. The threats of, you know, rioting in the streets and, you know, the whole Antifa crap. We see it. We see the changes in temperatures that go from, like the other day, it was like 42 degrees in the Pittsburgh area. Then the next day, you know, it was 72. Saw the same thing last winter. They were calling for this year a very, very horrible winter throughout the Northeast. But from what I'm seeing and what I've looked back on, I'm seeing the complete opposite. Once again, I'm seeing a milder winter in the Northeast. You know, when I mean mild, I mean, you know, the temperatures won't be too bad. We'll have a little bit of snow, but you know, they were predicting massive snowstorms throughout the you know, the whole entire Northeast, blanketed, just, you know, catastrophic snowfall, blah blah blah. I don't see that. I see once again a very mild type of a winter, but in the north central states, they're going to get blasted again like they did last year. You may possibly see Arctic temperatures reaching all the way down through the center part of the United States into the central South states, Texas, Oklahoma, Arizona. These will be brief, but they're going to happen. I think Australia and New Zealand, the southern tip of Africa and the southern tips of South America, I think that by, you know, December and January, getting into the winter, I think those countries, those areas are going to be hammered with outrageous weather in the southern hemisphere throughout this winter. But we're going to keep on wobbling. And the weather situations over there in Europe, especially the UK and France, Spain, Italy, Denmark, the Netherlands, Germany, all those countries, they're going to get some really, really freaky weather also. It's going to be really crazy. That is going to continue. I think once again, you're going to see massive record temperatures of heat in the southern hemisphere. Specifically, once again, Australia is probably going to take a beating again this summer. And also countries in the Middle East, where we know they already have warm temperatures, but we're going to see temperatures that might exceed on an average of well over 100 degrees. Why? It's pretty simple. It's because of the tilt of the Earth being more exposed to that direct energy from the sun. We'll see. Mm-hmm. That's what we saw last year. That's what was seen the year before, and it has steadily increased. So now we're going to make the observations for these next 3 to 4 months.
Yeah, Scott, also, you know that the Earth is warming up from the bottom because the interior of the Earth seems to be heating up due to the induced currents in it.
Yeah, exactly. That's I'm glad you touched on that. That's another factor that is, really disturbing our oceans. We have look, folks, just plain and simple, we have a freaking mess on this planet. I mean, massive animal and fish die-offs, the lack of insects. You wouldn't really think that would be something that you would pay attention to, the lack of insects. Oh, that's a big red flag. Mm-hmm. Some places that will be in a drought, some places that will just be overwhelmed with water. It's going to be pretty interesting. But, look, all of you have to be prepared in some way, some form or another, physically, mentally, spiritually. Try keeping your eye on all of the information that's out there and doing your own observations. I know a lot of you probably have very busy days taking care of yourself, your job, and your families. But, if you're a family person, get them involved. There's nothing wrong with it, folks. There's nothing wrong with teaching your children about what's happening to this planet and what is causing it. Don't scare them to death, but give them the general understanding. Like I've said before, it's not all about me. It's not all about you. We are all in this together as a people. Even those slugs and scums, these troll operations and the opposition that try to stop the information from flowing to you and who try to discredit, I hate to say this, but they are people too. And they've probably been brainwashed in some form or another that, whatever. But they're going to feel the effects of it also. So they are not immune to what is happening. I don't care what they say. All they do is they just make up an excuse for why it happened. We know why it's happened. What's the big deal? You know, instead of trying to band the people together, giving them the information and the knowledge to help themselves, they've decided to basically say, we better just keep control over them. I don't know about you guys, but I don't particularly like, people having that type of control over me. I didn't ask for it. I don't want it. Like Richie from Boston was saying the other day, I do not consent. And that is true. That's like these companies now that want to use these RFID chips stuck into, your hand or your wrist. Get out of here. You're not sticking nothing like that in me. What are you, crazy? No way. Manipulation at the highest level. It's scary. Real scary. It almost makes you just want to go underground right now and fall off the grid. There's a lot of really sick individuals out there that are in charge of your life. It's very scary. But we'll keep, we'll keep poking around. If you guys are not getting notifications to my channel, just make a point to come back to my YouTube channel at least once a day. But that's why I'm telling you folks to get on the Planet X News Facebook page, because you'll get your notifications from there. If you don't have a Facebook page, just create one. They already know everything you do, everything you say. They read your thoughts. They plant thoughts in your mind, whatever. You having a little Facebook page it's not going to put you in more jeopardy. They could shut down your life, your financial life, your electronic life. They could shut it all down in a heartbeat if they want. We're living in some very weird times.
Yes, indeed, Scott. Very weird.
Yeah, they are definitely weird.
Mm-hmm.
But folks, I wanted to clear some of these things up with all of you because, again, I do see a vast majority of people kind of following some bad information. And, we really don't want to see that. We know these objects are out there. We know where they're at near the sun. We know what they're doing to the sun. So, that phase of our investigation and our research, I don't want to say it's over, but we're going to monitor it. We're going to watch it. We know it's there. We know what it's doing to the sun. We know the implications of what it's doing to the earth. See, we know all of these things already. Now it's time to change gears and move to the point where we are awakening more and more and more people. But you don't want to awaken these people with nonsense information. You know, things that just aren't true, that are just shady. You don't want to introduce these people to YouTube channels that are kind of on that really kind of gray, shady type of information. Because they're out there. There's some pretty good people on YouTube and Facebook that have it in their heart to really inform you of what they're finding. And I think that the groups on Facebook are doing a good job. I think it's a great way to surround yourself with a lot of information. But ladies and gentlemen, there's no planet hitting the Earth. Okay? That's not going to happen. When you see that in the title of a video, don't even watch it. Don't even watch it. It's clickbait. It's fake. It's fraud. We know a planet. We know the mythical Nibiru's not going to hit the Earth. We know Planet X, or one of these stellar core objects, is not going to hit the Earth. One last time, our biggest threat is going to be from the sun, and that all lines up with everything else, from the earthquakes and the volcanoes to the weather. And ladies and gentlemen, these are the situations that are occurring that are costing precious lives. That's my point. So we've already seen it occur. I've watched very, very carefully throughout this past summer, through the hurricane season, and the tragic events that we all watched. We know what's happening. We know why it's happening. Now, what are we going to do about it? Well, there's nothing that we can physically do to change the fact that these objects are here. They're interacting with the sun. Nothing we could do about that. But what we can do is continue to educate our fellow man and woman and your families. But the information that you give them, you know, it has to be something that they could literally bite on, you know? I'm trying to provide that information for you. And there are some other channels out there, some other individuals that are, they're poking around and they're hinting towards what I'm talking about. They just don't want to push the envelope like I do, because, you know, they don't want to lose their YouTube channel. They don't want to lose credibility with their subscribers. So they'll kind of stay on that fringe of hinting. Me? Nah. I put it right in your face. Why? So you can see it. So you can see what I'm seeing, and you can see what I'm finding. And I'm not going to beat around the bush. It's just not my personality, man. Maybe others, not me. So I hope we've touched, you know, on a lot of subjects here. We're going to continue to look into this this Fatima event. I think that, you know, I think that that is an incredible event that occurred. I've read about it before, but, you know, really not in depth. I didn't connect the dots with what I know now, connecting the information. We've gone forward as far as we can go for today. But again, sometimes when you're really looking at a subject matter, you have to stop where you're at and you have to start backing up and you have to start going back to the beginning. But the beginning is so broad, it takes a while and you learn more. So many subjects. But getting back to that event in Fatima in the year 1917 has really piqued my interest. It involves a lot of players on a lot of different levels. But we're going to look at it, and Dr. Albers and I will put as much information together. We'll do a live stream on it. And whatever you guys can take from it, I hope it's, something that enlightens you, that broadens your mind and opens up your thoughts so you can think outside of the box. You have something to go on. But we see a lot of weird things going on around the world, folks. With governments, with movie stars, musicians, politicians. Ooh, man. We see a lot of different theories and conspiracies. Ooh, shit's getting deep, man. There's people out there seriously looking into these false flags and really causing a stink, really opening up some eyes, really breaking down the information and producing some pretty eye-opening evidence. See, folks, they're trying to create the situation where we as a people have to live in constant fear. But see, that's not what life is all about. Life now, with our technology, come on, we should not be living in fear. Everybody on this planet should be living a pretty good life. There's enough food to go around. There's enough water to go around. We can produce it. Technology, I think, is on our side. But yet there are still people on this planet that are suffering each and every day. See, because the people in charge, they allow it to happen. They don't want us to take back what is ours. They want to continue to maintain control over each and every one of you. Hey, even in the subtle way that you don't even recognize. But when you start thinking outside of that box, then you start to clearly see what is happening and what has been done for centuries. I used to really love medieval history, the knights and King Arthur and all that. I thought that was just a really intriguing time. But why should there be a kingdom? I mean, who are these people that rule over a kingdom? Who gave them that right to be called a king? To me, You know, I'm not trying to get religious here on everybody, but the only king that I recognize is God, the king of all mankind. Leaders of our countries. Why should we have to rely on them? Mm-hmm. You see where the breakdown really begins is it began thousands of years ago. It has gotten to the point now where it's very sophisticated, futuristic. Technology is on their side, and, you know, they have very devious ways of manipulating the world populations, covering things up. So we're going to stay on point. We're going to be looking into some other things. And, you know, folks, over the course of the next couple of weeks, I'm going to continue to make my observations. You know, if and when I find something, you will all be the first to know. I'll share it with you. But, you know, I'm going to start pushing the envelope with my own individual commentary. I may not have super sophisticated videos to show you, but my commentary, my thoughts I'm going to share. If you want to listen to me, fine. If you don't, it's just like your TV. You can turn the channel. I'm going to be touching on some subjects that are arising around the world. Will they be directly related to my subject matter here? Probably. So if you have a chance to listen, I'm going to do this, you know, via live streams. They may be short, they may be long. Now, you all know I'm pretty long-winded. Huh, Dr. Albers?
Oh, you always have something very important to say, and you say it well, Scott.
I know I can be long-winded, but, you know, there's just so much to say sometimes in a very short amount of time. Dr. Albers, anything that you want to add in your observations over the last couple of weeks? I know you've put a lot of videos out, at least one a day. YouTube is hammering her YouTube channel, folks, also. They are literally smashing her YouTube channel every minute of every day. That is a fact. They're doing it to my YouTube channels, and they're doing it to many, many other YouTube channels. That's why you might see some of them backing off for a little while, you know, but once they label you, you're labeled. But yeah, Doctor, anything that you want to add in your recent observations?
Yes, Scott, like I said before, my latest observations show that some of these objects hold stationary positions inside the sun's corona, and they become a part of the sun. So eventually they get brighter and they start emitting light from their surface, sometimes on the outside. And what it seems to be happening is that the sun is growing. They are having electric discharges. There are electric discharges between the sun and these objects. And within these discharges, what we get happening is fission. These are nuclear reactions. And these objects, at least some of them, seem to have argon in the ionizing envelopes and their atmospheres, like the sun's own corona, which they boil off their surface. They exchange this with the sun. So there's now seems to be argon that comes from these objects on the sun. And this leads to that emission of that pink light that we see coming off the sun. Also, because there's fission reactions happening within these electric discharge, which is basically lightning between the sun and these objects. And part of these reactions is the giving off of gamma rays. So we are getting gamma radiation, gamma bursts from these interactions. So this is bad, of course, because it means the Earth will be bombarded by some gamma radiation coming off the sun, which gamma radiation is very, very dangerous for living organisms. So this is happening. And the way I discovered this was there was actually an article written in 2004 showing that on Earth, when there is a lightning discharge, that this nuclear reaction occurs and we get delayed gamma rays coming off these reactions. So it's happening on Earth sometimes, and it's definitely happening in the interaction between these objects and the sun, because we get these electric discharges happening between them. So that's some of my latest discoveries. I find it very interesting. It also shows, again, I've written a lot about the fact that the universe is electrical in nature. And the most energetic explosions in the universe are these gamma ray bursts. And this shows that gamma ray bursts are due to the electrical interaction, high electric fields, which accelerate protons, which then lead to these fission reactions. So gamma ray bursts can be well explained by the fact that the universe is electrical in nature. And I found that fascinating. Yeah, and you know, I just like to say, like you say, that we are living in these dangerous times, that our leaders are not for us. They seem more interested in controlling us and mentioning that there are too many of us. So possibly they
oh yeah. Who was that came out and said that? One of those goofy princes over in the UK.
Yes,
yeah, there's too many people on this planet. Okay,
yeah.
buddy, then go over to the London Bridge and take a leap off of it, and there'll be one less.
Yeah, I also think so, that if you think there are too many people on Earth and you want to decrease the population, perhaps you should start with yourself.
Yeah, exactly. But you don't see any of them getting ready to step out in front of a bus, do you? No, they want you to do it.
Yeah.
Because they hold themselves above and beyond you. The king and the prince. Yeah, well, I don't recognize any of that. I never will, whatever. Okay. Who are you to be called my king? Yeah, see, if you spout that garbage out to me, well, then, you know, I'm going to be very belligerent towards you, and I'm going to tell you to take your kingship and your kingdom and shove it straight up your ass, because I don't recognize it.
That's right, Scott. My allegiance is to my king, and he's Jesus Christ, and he's our creator, and that's the one we should give our allegiance to. We should give him our lives because he gave his life for us. And I think he's the only one that is for us, and the only one who is able to protect us from these people who hate us.
Yeah. You know, I mentioned before in some of my live streams, and I just saw one of the viewers, Mr. Khalil, is it Khalil Wooten? He mentioned David Wilcock. And David Wilcock, you've seen him on Ancient Aliens, and you've seen him, you know, as of recently on YouTube quite a bit with Corey Good, and talking about the cabal and the New World Order and aliens and things of that nature and disclosure. Listen, folks, I've been following David Wilcock for quite a long time. The man lives with security guards 24 hours a day protecting his life, because a very high amount of government whistleblowers have actually come to him, and they're divulging that information also. But if all of you want something more to feed your mind, then follow David Wilcock, because, you know, the guy's very credible. People aren't going to put themselves out there and ruin their reputations for some nonsense. So a lot of his videos, a lot of his information will enlighten you on some other subjects, and it's going to broaden your mind quite a bit, whether you believe it or not. It's, as they say, food for thought. You know, and again, I'm going to bring up Richie from Boston again. You know, whenever he does his commentary and his reporting, he's giving you a piece of his mind. He's giving you food for thought. I mean, I don't think the guy's going to actually sit there and lie to you. I mean, like me, folks, I'm not here to sit and blow smoke up your ass and lie to you. For what? It's just a waste of my time. I could be watching Sunday Night Football right now. But this is more important. You guys are more important. Even though none of us know each other on a personal level, you never know. At some day, at some time, we may be depending on each other more than you ever will think. Somebody's asking me what's up with, David Meade. There's been a lot of information that has come out about David Meade. I don't know. I followed some of the guy's information. I see he's a regular guest on WSO, which to me has absolutely no credibility whatsoever. One of the trolling organizations did a pretty big piece on David Meade a few weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. I got to say, some of the information they uncovered was, very questionable about, his information, all based on the September 23rd beef up. Very questionable, folks. Again, that's why I said questioning the information that you're observing. I mean, you're just going to have to. I mean, you can question my information. You can question Dr. Albers' information. I mean, that's your right. But to simply sit and believe everything you read, everything you see, well, that's a big no-no. But again, if you're going to investigate this information, you're going to absorb a lot. But that's where opening up your mind and thinking outside of the box and, pretty much discerning what is real, what looks real, what is real. Folks, we're in this freaky times now, man. We're like living in this matrix. They're almost making it like that. It's weird. Very weird. But there are some good people out there that are, beating the drums in the correct way. I want to thank everybody who has helped my channel out I thank all of you. I mean, a lot of you, like I said before, folks, I wish we could fill stadiums around the world and get the opportunity to meet one another. But in today's society, there's more people looking to hurt one another, and caution and security. Well, that's the world that we're living in now. And that is a shame. I think things are going to get a little bit, yeah, I think they're going to get a little bit more weirder as time goes on. We'll see. You know, even police organizations around the world, man, these people are acting crazy. They're like under total government rule, man. They're like killing people on a daily basis worldwide, living in a police state, the cover-ups. I mean, man, it's really, really bad. And there are so many different levels of what's happening, it's almost impossible to keep up with. Like that old adage saying goes, you know, keep your own front door clean. Sweep in front of your own front door. Basically, you know, you protect yourself, you mind your business, you care for yourself and your family and what is best for them. You don't have to be a solid prepper, as they quote say, but you can guarantee that in a situation, while others who did not prepare in any way suffer, at least you'll have, and I'll use the term loosely, some comfort, food, water, protection. We don't know what's going to happen from day to day, folks. Yeah, Soros, Clinton, Comey, Obama, Bush, Satan worshipers. Yeah, these are pretty weird people, man. I mean, if you just look at them, you know, the only place you're going to see them is on the news. Look deep into their eyes. Look at them. Look at their faces. These are the people that are in power over each and every one of you. So you could let them think that they have that power over you. But like that old deodorant commercial used to say, never let them see you sweat. We as a people just have to go along with what is there, with what is happening. But deep down inside, each and every one of you should be preparing in some way, preparing your mind, preparing your spirit, preparing your family, preparing yourself in whatever way you deem necessary. Remember, folks, science doesn't know everything, and they can prove very little. And governments are the same way. I think we are truly now living in this weird freaking matrix that they've created. And they've created it for control. I don't like it. That's all I got to say on that subject.
Yeah, no one likes to be controlled, Scott.
Not in a bad way like that, you know.
Yeah, that's right. It's like a prison. So it's...
Well, that's why, you know, that's why they call it the prison planet.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, very, very high possibility.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to go ahead and, you know, we're going to end our live stream here. And let me scoot over here real quick. Well, like I said, folks, we're gonna try to bring you a little more commentary type live streaming with Dr. Albers and I, and we're going to continue our observations on what we're finding out there. We're getting into that time frame now, from the beginning of the month to pretty close to about the 21st. These days are going to fluctuate, but we should be able to get some sightings on some of the instruments. I know they're probably listening to me now say that, and they'll probably work even more harder to get rid of the information. But, you know, I'll do my best in finding it. But I think we're going to be doing some reporting on some other things that we're finding that are all in association to what's happening now. And I think that's what everyone needs to hear. Not what happened in the past, what's happening now, and what possibly might happen in the very near future. I'm not talking 5 or 10 years down the road. I'm talking like tomorrow or next week or next month. So stay tuned. Join that Facebook group, Planet X News. The link's in the description box. It's an easier way to follow my YouTube channel and, you know, not rely on YouTube notifications. When you join the Facebook group, Planet X News, set your notifications instead of default into, you know, see first. And you'll see it and you'll get the notification. And then at your leisure, you can view the information like you do on Facebook every day. I'm just finding it an easier way to stay in touch with all of you because, you know, I know what they've done to my YouTube channel, and it's, you know, I'd say probably 75% useless now. But that's the power they have, folks. That's the power they have. Dr. Albers, any last words?
Well, thank you, Scott. You know, it's been a very interesting live stream. And well,
Isn't
I'd
it
like
always?
Yes. Well, I'd like to say, as usual, that we're living in bad times and probably will be getting worse. And I think we should develop some faith and get to know our Creator. I think He's the only one who can help us. And I think we should all try to develop a relationship with Him and develop, you know, a way of not living in fear, but rather in trusting someone who can indeed help us.
Once again, very wise words. And listen, folks, if you're not following Dr. Albers' YouTube channel, the link is in the description box under the video. Follow her channel on YouTube, share her videos, listen to her videos. They're very scientific. Hey, you might learn something. You just may increase your vocabulary on this subject matter. You may just get a better understanding. You may even get some of your questions answered by simply viewing her information. So make sure you stay tuned. Show your support that way. Show your support by sharing the videos. And again, you know, folks, you're all like little soldiers out there now. There are tens of thousands of you, if not hundreds of thousands of you now, that are, you know, branching out and seeking your own information by making your own observations. You're doing your own investigations and you're sharing the information. I think that's fantastic. That's what I've been looking for quite a long time. It just seems that over the past year, the groups that have popped up all around the world are the best thing that we have going right now as far as, you know, spreading this information and opening people's eyes, the awakening. And that's truly what it's about. We know these objects are there. We know what they're doing to the sun. Whether you want to believe it or not, that's what's happening. At your own free will, hey, you can investigate yourself, make your own observations. If you want to share them with me and Dr. Albers, that's great. Share them with others. But ladies and gentlemen, don't ever get to the point where others start influencing you to dumb you down. When you start letting that happen and you don't stand up for yourself, that's the end. That's the end. We're not ready for the end yet. I know I'm not. But anywho, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for being with us this Sunday evening. I know we touched on a whole lot of subjects, and probably we can go on for hours. We'll save that for another day. Make sure each and every one of you stay tuned. Check back with my YouTube channel, hit the Facebook page, the websites. Keep yourself in tune. Keep yourself up to date with all of the information. I appreciate each and every one of you taking out the time to be here tonight. Dr. Albers, I know she feels the same way. And from the both of us, thank you very, very much, and have a good night.